Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 6:31 and we are here for the Leys Pavilion Advisory Committee meeting on Tuesday the 2nd of March, and this is live to residents of Bletchley and Fen Stratford on YouTube. I'll go through the agenda in a second, but I would just like to start off the meeting by allowing members of this committee to introduce themselves. I'm Nathaniel Kelly-Wilson and I am the chairman of this committee. I will ask people to introduce themselves. I'm going to start off with the way that they appear on my screen, which is Sam, Keith, Frank, Eamon, and then if the staff members present could also introduce themselves. Thank you. Sam, over to you.
Oh, sorry. I'm Samantha Brown. I'm a town councillor for Bletchley and Fen Town Council for the Lakes area.
Good evening. I'm Keith Healy. I'm the Bletchley and Fen Stratford Town Councillor also.
I'm Frank Same. I'm a resident on Leys development.
Eamon, over to you.
I'm Eamon O'Rourke, councillor for Fen Stratford.
Okay, and if the staff could introduce themselves as well, thank you.
Hi, I'm Jill Long. I'm the Support Services Manager for Bletchley and Fen Stratford Town Council.
Hi, I'm Louise. I'm the Leys Community Officer.
Thank you, everybody. If we could, are there any apologies for absence, Jill?
Councillor Graham.
Okay, and if we, are there any declarations of interest in matters on the agenda? No, I would take that there are none. Thank you very much. If we could go to the minutes, please. The meeting last held on the 11th of September 2020. So page 1. And page 2. Everybody happy with the minutes?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I will take that we are happy with the minutes and we'll sign them when we can. The next item on the agenda is financial update, current year-to-date financial situation for the Pavilion. Is there anything you want to say to this, Jill?
Yes, if I may, there's been an additional Milton Keynes Council grant received. We haven't actually got it in the bank yet, but they've notified us there's an additional £3,143, which will bring our total grant income for the Pavilion to £25,357.
Okay.
The anomaly you may see against new equipment, that is purely for the accrual for the table tennis tables because it was transferred to earmark reserves in December.
Okay. So I think an important note, probably an important point to note in terms of the financial update is we have not generated the income that we thought that we would do, and it looks like we're about 48% of the 48.4% of the level of income that we are, and obviously this ongoing pandemic is affecting the Pavilion. So I don't know if anyone else has got any comments or questions they want to make on the budget.
No.
Okay, next item on the agenda, if everyone's happy, is section 106 funds review and consideration for further expenditure. And there is a paper which is page 5 of the pack. Did you want to talk to this, please, Jill?
If I could hand, this obviously has been prepared for the expenditure so far, but the page 9 is some proposals which Will's put together. So if it's okay for Will to speak.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thanks, Will. Will, could you just introduce yourself, because I think you missed us for that bit, please.
Yeah, hi guys. Apologies for joining slightly late. I missed the invite somehow. I'm with you now. So yeah, so as you can see from the first set of details. There's 66,535 left in S106 funds available for Newton Leys Pavilion. And then I've put together a suggestion of some of the items that we could purchase, some of which we've spoken about previously. And as we know, that money's essentially, that's all we're getting. So when the pitches come on board, we do need to bear in mind that there will be some expenditure for items for the pitches. So you can see that the total of those comes to 38,072. That's for a scrubber dryer machine, which is something we've never had at Newton Leys, but would come in very useful for deep cleaning of the halls, and could also be used in our other facilities, especially now we've got George Street on board. The buffing machine likewise will come in handy for the changing rooms, so the deep cleaning of changing rooms. We talked previously about a PA system, so I've put £3,500 in there. That's for a pretty decent PA system. We've got full-size goals. So on the left, you can see these are the movable type, which are more expensive than the socketed type. So if we went for socketed goals, you can see the price for those on the right-hand side.
We will, for the person who has never played football in his life, could you explain the difference?
Yeah. So movable goals, they're all encompassing. So it's all in one piece, and you can move them out of the way. If we were to have if we were to use the field for something else, or over winter, if there was some maintenance work going on the sort of goal areas, you can move them completely out of the way. Whereas the socketed ones, effectively, there's a socket left in the ground. So it's just a frame, whereas the movable ones, you can roll them to wherever you want them.
Okay. Any opinions on what we should go for? I mean, I think I have one, but happy to kind of open that out.
I could just come in. I would say that the removable temporary ones are as such to put in storage are the better ones. The permanent ones tend to get broken when the kids jump on the crossbar and start to bounce up and down on it, and then you've got a breakage, which is additional cost to replace it. So it's better to put them up and take them down as and when required.
I agree.
Just to make the point, these are not. They can't easily be taken apart and put away, Frank. They're still big, solid goals, but they can be moved. So they can be moved aside and locked up when they're not in use. So it's quite commonplace to lock the two of them together with, like a chain arrangement, so that they can't be messed around with.
I think that
then that's acceptable, I think.
Yeah.
I think that these are the goals that are at my son's football club in Buckinghamshire, and I think that we normally carry them back into the shed where they are, where they're kept, but they are kind of movable. I think I was more minded for those goals, and just to clarify, I think the reason is as well, I also know that a lot of people walk their dogs on those areas, and like the fact that there would be a socket there, I just think that we might be opening ourselves up to risk of of anyone kind of catching their feet in it, or kind of it's a hole in the ground, isn't it? So it feels not the right thing. Just in terms of the goals, is it 2 full size, and what's the number of the junior size pitches?
So the 13-14-year-old goals, that's one set of that.
Yeah.
And the other set for the older juniors, they use full-size goals anyway. So it's 2 sets of full-size goals, and then a smaller set.
For me, so I didn't know. I thought that we had 1 full-size pitch and 2 smaller size pitches.
There are. But
Yeah.
One of the smaller pitches is only a little bit smaller.
Oh, okay.
And they do. I have checked with the Sport England and the FA that, yeah, the right size of goal for that age group is full size goals. So,
Okay, that's absolutely fine.
yeah.
Can I ask a couple of questions, Will?
Certainly.
Well, the socketed versions of posts, they presumably can be put into the ground when the game is finished. They can be pulled out and taken away, and then put into storage.
Maybe.
But of course,
Yeah, not easily, Keith.
Eh?
Not easily. Usually, you'd take them out at the end of the season, but they'd remain in place for the season.
Right.
Ordinarily, they're big, heavy bits of metal.
Yeah, the big strapping footballers, aren't they?
Let's get a bit, shall we?
Yeah. Okay. Righto. Okay. Thanks. But I mean, presumably at the end of the season, you're going to take them away, and as I understand it, the storage area we've got isn't big enough to put them in, is it?
It's not, no.
No. So you've got to find somewhere to put them and to store them. So we've got to create, in addition.
Ordinarily, they'd get left to the side of the pitches. So if you've got the movable ones, like I say, they'd be locked together, and they'd be off of the pitch itself, but off to the side of the pitches. They remain out during the winter.
Do they? You wouldn't put them back by the pavilion and sort of chain them to the pavilion?
You'd struggle for space, I think.
Well, I mean, the trouble with it is that they could easily go walkabouts, couldn't they?
Could we put an anchor in the ground that something that they can be chained to?
We could do. We could look into that.
And do these prices include the nets?
No.
Right. So
no, my mistake. Yes, they do, Keith.
Okay.
Yeah, they all come with a set of nets.
Okay, doke. Right. Thank you, Will.
No worries. These prices. I mean, I haven't attached any quotes. These were just indicative prices that were gained in order to effectively work out what we could spend this S106 money and the sort of an indication of price. So these are not absolute.
So the question for me, is there anything that members feel isn't on this list that should be included?
Well, can I come? I think there's things on here that we may not need. For instance, at this centre, we've got we pay for cleaners to do the work, don't we?
We do.
So why would we provide a buffing machine and a scrubber dryer? Wouldn't we expect the contractors to provide that sort of equipment?
Well, they mop, they sweep and mop, Keith. That's what's in the specification.
Yeah, I realise that, but
Yeah.
if you presumably we would specify what we want done, and normal circumstances. I mean, you don't buy hammers for a builder, do you, to go and knock a roof up or something? You expect him to provide his own, and I would have thought you'd expect your cleaners to provide their own equipment as well.
I think, from my experience, it depends on the value of the contract. If it's a huge cleaning contract, when I've operated venues in the past, and we were having a clean every day, our cleaning bill was something like £5,000 a week. Obviously, the contractor put the cleaning products there. When I've worked with really small places, they're expecting the venue to provide it.
Well, the cleansing contract ran out.
It's our floor, isn't it?
Eh?
It's our floor, isn't it? And I think that we're kind of wanting this to protect our floor, I think.
Well, you specify what you want to provide.
Yes.
Well, all I'm saying to you is this: is that if you get a reasonable contractor to do the work, you would expect the contractor to provide his own equipment, and that's, you're talking about £2,500 there, and
this is money that does need to be spent, Keith. It was supposed to be spent over a year ago, so this is sort of best guess at things that may be useful to us. Do you know what I mean? I'll
tell you what,
we're not in a position where we can leave it just sitting in the bank. That's the thing.
the point is that the football pitches are going to cost a lot more money than, well, they're going to cost some money. And by the time you've got other stuff that you're going to need lining equipment and the rest. Plus, you're going to need some form of fence between the football pitches and the lake. It doesn't got to be 10 foot high or anything. It could be a low fence. It's the running ball that you've got to stop. Because when I used to referee at Buckingham, that was the problem there. The ball used to run across the ground into the river. So they put a low fence up, but it's still going to cost you money. And there are other items that you immediately think of that the playing fields are going to want. And I think unless you've got a reserve of money there to use, I would have thought that we would have been better to delay the purchase of these sort of machines that may be provided by others, maybe, and save that money for opening of the sports field.
Jill, could I ask you to clarify, because I do believe that there's 2 earmarked reserves for Newton Leys Pavilion, one with the old 106, one with the 106 that was handed over. So actually, I believe that there is more than 66k. Could we just have some clarification on what is sitting in the budget as a reserve?
I believe it is 66,000 because the 2 added together were, I think there was a total of 150,000, which was the original. There was 54 and 96 in total. And so far we have spent 84. And of course it's intended for setup costs. It's not intended for maintenance costs. So it has to be used for setting up, not for ongoing maintenance costs. They have to be borne, I assume, from income.
Ethan, the section 106 for Newton Leys Pavilion is 63,844.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chair, can I say something?
Yes, sorry. Thank you.
I think that's a great idea to share the equipment with Fenny Centre. Surely, unless we have the same cleaners, we won't be able to borrow the equipment, will we? So, if you know where I'm coming from on that. The buffing machine.
Would be available for our use at any facility, wouldn't it?
That's what I'm saying. If we own it, it can go to any facility. But if the cleaners own it, they might not let it go down there. You know, they might not have the same cleaners for each Fenny or Newton Leys. There might be different cleaning firms. If that makes sense.
Oh, it does make perfect sense because we will go out to tender for the cleaning, no doubt, at some point for Fenny Stratford Community Centre. Yeah. So we might not end up with the same cleaning company, but
okay. Any final thoughts on this list of items here? And I did hear from Keith about fencing. Is there anything that we're going to do around fencing? Because I understand the problem as well. On the one side, there is the balancing pond. And, you know, it doesn't appear that, you know, we want to try and prevent people from walking into that pond to go and retrieve bulls, etc.
Indeed. Chair, I said in a previous meeting that I would try and have a contract regarding an estimate for fencing around the pitches and potentially a higher fence along the balancing leg, as the ball is likely to get kicked in there quite often. I reckon one of the pitches runs parallel to that balancing pond. So we do probably need a higher fence along that, what would be the eastern boundary. I can certainly make my contact with the chap I know who could give us very good estimate prices. Not a contractor, somebody that's in the industry that knows about fencing costs and can give us a fencing cost for a high fence plus the fencing cost for the smaller fence around the remaining 3 boundaries.
So is that like potentially going to be, so talking, we've got £66,000 left. We've been presented with a list of items here which come to 38. Are there any kind of items here that members think are a priority and things that should be held back until we kind of have the fence quotes come in, because obviously I'm guessing Keith is our chair of the finance committee, and I'm guessing that he would like the section 106 to be covering the cost of the fence if it could.
Eamon, Ethan, you've got it in one.
Absolutely, yeah.
Can I suggest something on the fencing? I'm used to do it. Chair?
Go on, please.
If it's just going to have a season once after year at football, sort of thing, 6 months, at the air shows, we put up temporary fencing, plastic fencing. It looks like the safety fencing. You just push it in with your foot. You put your foot on a little plastic bit that sticks out and you push it in the ground. And that would stop rolling balls going in there. Then at the end of the year, you could just take the stuff up, roll it up, and you put it away. We do 12 shows a year, so it's quite a lot of fencing, but it goes up and comes down, and it's really easy on the cutting the grass and all that sort of thing. Because you put a fence up, you've got to spray it out. It just builds the costs up. But if it's a temporary fence just for the football season, and I don't know how high, I've put 22-foot fences up for rugby pitches, but you don't want to go along that line. Just to keep the low balls from drifting into the pond, I think a temporary fence would do just as well. Plastic. That's all I've got to say.
Who would put that temporary fencing up, and who would take it down?
Well, I suppose it could be put up the once, and hopefully it'll stay there just for the. We all could do it easy. It is easy. We do it. We're all pensioners over at Old Warden, and we managed to get it all up. So, it's not a struggle.
Yeah, I think we'd need to bear in mind that it's we don't currently have a member of staff there every weekend. Whether that will change when the pitches come on board is obviously yet to be seen. But there's something that needs putting up and taking down. I know you're saying perhaps leaving it up for the whole season. I think there's a danger it might get taken away by someone.
The cost of maintenance, the grass fields and that, cutting them, putting a fence there, you have to spray the fence out because you can't trim it. It costs too much money. And there's all adding costs with a permanent fence. There's nothing to say the kids won't damage that anyway.
But Chair, hang on, but if you think in terms of how football clubs are run, a lot of the work, if you go to the villages, and as I say, when I used to referee at the villages and so on around Milton Keynes, most of the work, on all the work, is done by volunteers from the football club. And the input from the parish and town councils out in the villages is nothing. They line the pitches, they cut the grass. That's a debatable point, but they certainly if the grass is cut by the parish, then they line it, fix it up, put the posts up, and put the fencing up, and would leave it there. I'll take the Eamon's point fully, leave it there for the season, take it down, take it away. I think that's by far a better arrangement.
I think
rather than take everything on ourselves.
I also kind of know that model, and what the team where my son is, they kind of get all the parents to kind of do that stuff. However, it's the club is owned by the sporting association in the village, and therefore they feel that they're supporting the charity. And I think that we have, I think that our position is, or our previous position has been, that these playing fields are available for rental and are not free. So I think if people are renting a pitch, they're going to, the expectation is that it's going to be serviced, I think. So we just need to take a decision on that. But I think the decision that we took before is that they would be rented.
But you're not going to get a club rent a pitch week by week, are you? You're going to get it for rent for a season.
So my understanding is that from talking to some of the other teams that are based in the area, and use either the schools on one of the schools on the Leys estate or the pitches at Leon School, is that they are paying on a week-by-week basis.
Well, to get into a league these days, if you get into the North Bucks League or one of those, you've got to have a pitch.
Yeah.
You've got to have a pitch for a season. Otherwise, you don't get in the league.
Yeah, but it's the same with some of our bookings. We've got block bookings, but it would still be a block booking. But it's based upon a price per week.
Oh yeah, I'm going with that. But having got the okay, Chair, don't matter. I'm speaking too much.
So back to the point. Is there anything on this list that we want to ask or give authority to buy now, or would members rather see the costs of fencing come back first? And I had no idea about I felt that there was some very different types of fencing that was being talked about. I think what I was thinking is that the fencing would be a bit like the fencing at the school, so not like a wooden fence, a kind of see-through fence. But I don't know what.
Yeah.
Frank has probably more experience than me. And
Chair, that's the ones that you see around Newton Leys Primary School and other recent new builds in Milton Keynes. It is a more robust, non-climbable fence in essence. But of course, the cheaper version of that is what we know as the old chain link type version, and that can be either at 4 foot high, 1.2, or it's up to 6 foot high, 1.8 high. So I should be able to get a couple of different types of estimates based on the lower fence and the higher fence. And the other thing to consider, which we've talked about previously regarding the pitches, is potentially floodlighting as well.
We need to get quotes in really for the fencing.
Okay, so is that enough instruction for now? Shall we? Do you think we could bring that back to another meeting?
Get quotes, yeah.
All those in
definitely.
support of that motion, then. Yeah, all those in support?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that's carried then. So
could I just ask,
yeah.
is that's fencing just along the lakeside side of the pavilion, or are you talking around the entire circumference of the field?
That's very much open to opinion from the rest of the team, really, what their views are.
Okay, Keith, thank you.
Can I suggest that it's the pitch side, between the pitch and the lake, that you've got a fence, but I think the surrounding area needs reinforcing to keep unwanted intruders out, like the planting of trees, for instance, and shrubs, sturdy shrubs, so that there's no gaps where you can get, as I say, intruders onto the pitch, onto the site. And that's rather than put fences up. And I think we want to keep fences to a minimum.
Yeah. For me, I think that we need at the entrance to the field, I think that we need a barrier, like we have a barrier to enter the car park.
Yep.
So it's a lockable barrier, because I, on a number of occasions, have been down there and I've had to ask people to remove their cars from the actual, because there is actually some land drainage that runs straight on from the roadway, and people were driving their car, and I was a bit worried that we're going to end up, not being something causing some damage. So I think that we want to kind of really try and limit the amount of vehicles that kind of go onto that space, and also talking about kind of comments that you make, we want to have some protection from that.
So that's protection from vehicles rather than pedestrians.
Yeah.
But I think your idea of a barrier is right, Ethan.
Yeah.
and to reinforce the rest of the perimeter with additional trees or planting of something, or downgrade rocks.
Okay. So I think the decision that we've made is that we're going to defer the item for the purchases that have been mentioned until we've seen the quotes for the fencing and also for a vehicle barrier at the entrance to the playing fields. Okay. Thank you. Next item. Next item is item 6, to discuss reopening of the community facilities. Who wants to talk to this?
If I would let me chair. We, as a management team, have discussed obviously the government's roadmap and looked at the details that have been provided so far. This is our draft at the moment. As you see, Newton Leys, this is for the whole of our buildings that we've got at the moment. But as you see, Newton Leys Pavilion is on there, and which shows you which part of the roadmap has an impact. Really, the first impact for Newton Leys Pavilion, we feel, is on the 12th of April, which is for indoor children's activities. So Cha-Cha Chimps, and I'm sure there are lots of others that I can't name now, that would go in there. And then the 17th of May would be indoor adult exercise would be allowed. So the exercise classes we currently have could start again in May, and there are the ability to have a limited celebrations of maximum of 30 people. It doesn't say what for, it just says any celebration. So you could have some children's parties, some very small, I think weddings are allowed on the 17th of May with small numbers on them. And then obviously 21st of June is a day when most of the, if not all of the restrictions are lifted. So that's the proposed roadmap for the reopening of Newton Leys Pavilion. Will, do you have anything else to add to that at all?
No, you hit the nail on the head. Obviously, it's proposed at this stage. You know, it's all dependent on numbers, isn't it, across the country?
Yes.
Just a point on this thing. I'm guessing that we have been hearing that there will be an election on the 6th of May, but the election order has not been issued as yet. I'm guessing that on the 6th of May, there'll be a polling station at the Pavilion.
Yeah.
Okay. Any comments on this paper, which I think is page 43 of the pack?
Oh.
No.
No, I'll take that as noted then. All in favour?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, and the final item on the agenda is an update on the football pitches.
That's for Will.
Well, it's really only to say that there is no real firm update. Only that the plan is to hand them over later this year, but there is some more preparation work needed. There was a period last year where they were left unmaintained. They restarted maintenance on them quite late in the year last year. They'll be restarting maintenance on them from early April, and then hopefully they'll be transferred to us, you know, later in the year once they're ready.
Okay.
I've got a quotation from the Grounds Management Association, who once they're close to being ready to transfer, will come and make an assessment of the pitches to make sure they're up to scratch.
Any views from the committee?
No.
No, the only thing I think we're pretty all convinced of it, the Taylor Wimpeys have not done a good job really in the time scale taken to get the pitches up to a decent standard that we could adopt. And as Will said, with leaving it so long and not maintaining it properly, the 3 pitches have just developed a tremendous amount of weeds, and that needs to be rectified before we even think about taking it over.
Keith?
I went over there about 2 or 3 weeks ago and had a look at them, and they're not very good. They're not in a good condition. You certainly couldn't play football on them, and that's their primary purpose, as I understand it.
Yes.
There's even situations where I doubt if they've used the same grass seed on the site. There's clearly 2 different types, and whether or not there are other problems out there regarding the seeding process, I don't know. I didn't go over the whole site. I went over about half of it, and I was quite disappointed. There are even some quite noticeable depressions in the surface, and there was water sitting in those. Now, how you get rid of those, I don't. Well, yeah, but you can get rid of them, and it'd be interesting to see what maintenance can be done to bring them round into a condition that they will be usable this year. I was quite disappointed with them. Thank you, Chair.
My own view.
Could I come back in there just to highlight that the pitches underneath the pitches, they do have a drainage system installed, and they will take water away, albeit that possibly when Keith visited, we could have had a prolonged bout of rain, and it will have some localized ponding, which would normally dissipate within 24 to 36 hours.
Frank, do you know if it's a mole drain or a pipe drain?
It's a mole drain, and it's proper to the specifications to Sport England requirements.
Right.
And FA.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I have no idea what that was, but you do, so that's fine. I think my own view is I'm really disappointed on behalf of the community that it's taken so long. I mean, this Christmas, in Christmas 2021, we'll have had the pavilion 3 years, and so we've now had it kind of 2 years, 3 months, and we still don't have the playing fields. And I think that I regularly see that the fence is being broken open for people to kind of, and it is kind of a nice expanse for people to go and walk their dogs on. I kind of appreciate that, but I don't really see any work going on or any maintenance going on. It feels a bit occasional, and I would really like us to see this being handed over for the community so that people can start playing the next season of football. Is it August, September, on these pitches if possible? So I kind of think if there's anything that we need to do, or Taylor Wimpey need to do around the seeding, the drainage, surely, the right time to be kind of thinking of seeding is not April, is now. So it feels that they kind of need to be getting on it right now, because, in terms of the Newton Leys as a community, we are now coming up to with certainly the area within Milton Keynes, the 1,650 original houses that are being built. So basically, we have people here for which the facilities were supposed to grow with the site, and the facilities are not being provided. And I just think that is woefully inadequate, and we need to be going back to Taylor Wimpey to say, we're not happy, this needs to be delivered, but and actually, frankly, we don't care how much it costs you, we want this community assets to be delivered, because I think that it was supposed to be delivered at the same time as the building.
Chair, can I come back in here and just say, I think we've suffered from the very old planning permissions that were done many years ago, which didn't put in key parts of the development to be completed within periods of time. We as residents have suffered from that greatly. Having said that, and not wishing to be political about the situation there, but it's just stating the facts, I would suggest really strongly the Town Council should be writing a very strong letter, and that letter should be going straight to the Managing Director of Wimpy's with a strong condemnation about their lack of attention to our very needs for this development. And I suggest that probably that needs to come via Delia at the office. But we do need a strong letter, and I think we're always dealing with the builders, developers, project managers who are not as strong as they could be and don't have a tremendous pull with Taylor Wimpey themselves. So I think it needs to go to the Managing Director, and we should ask for a meeting with the Managing Director and not getting fobbed off with the people that work underneath him.
Any other viewpoints on that?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, I'd just like to add to your point, Frank, and I know that we've worked together for some time, and I know that our viewpoint is Taylor Wimpey's head office for South Midlands is here in Newton Leys. This is their shop window. This should be the one, at least one site that is right. And, you know, I think that it feels to me that this isn't right. And I look at kind of the site beyond around where I live on phase 6, and I remember moving in July 2019 and them saying we will finish the last house on phase 6 in January 2021, and actually they finished the last house in February 2021 despite them downing tools for 6 months. So I find it unacceptable personally that they can deliver houses on time, but they haven't delivered this community facility on time. So any other comments from any other members? But I will kind of accept and second the proposal from Frank that we do engage with the Managing Director.
I think just to finalise another point that just comes to mind, that Taylor Wimpey are part of what we call as the Considerate Constructor Scheme, and of which the developer, the contractor, will take responsibility and do all the correct things regarding their neighbourhood, of which we are the neighbours. And as the council, we are also neighbours, as we have the pavilion on the development. And we can also make a complaint to the Considerate Constructor Scheme, who in turn send a letter to Wimpey's head office. So I would suggest putting that little note down in our minutes for Delia to pick up, and she wants to contact me regarding that and give her further information. That will be no problem from my point of view.
So I think proposal is that we write, and I think we can have a offline conversation about the subject of the letter and kind of where it goes, but are members minded to agree with the proposal made?
Yeah.
All those in favour?
Yep.
Thank you. So I think that's unanimous. I think that's all of the business that's on the agenda this evening.